Filly, and also thank you to Stefano Pieta, the journalist and the manager, director, creator of Steradiodj. First of all, let me introduce you to the audience. Dean Butler is an actor, and if something is wrong, tell me. It's just a little introduction.
Sure.
Dean Butler is an actor, a producer of entertainment, sports, and documentary programs. He's Canadian, and he now lives in Los Angeles, correct? You are in Los
Well, I was actually, Philly, I was born in Canada, but I'm an
Angeles.
American citizen. And
Okay, great.
yeah, I have a Canadian birth certificate, but I'm an American citizen and carry a US passport.
Okay, wonderful. And are you happy about that?
I'm sorry.
Are you happy about that?
Oh, well, I had the option. I At 21, when I turned 21, I had the option to choose US citizenship or Canadian citizenship, and my the only reason I was born in Canada was because my father was serving in the United States Air Force during that time in
Yes.
Canada. So all of my family are U.S. citizens, and to not be a U.S. citizen at that point didn't make sense. So I did choose U.S. citizenship. I have no regrets about it.
Great. I'm very happy for you.
Yeah.
And then you began your acting career playing a little minor role in the streets of San Francisco that everybody knows. Le strade di San Francisco. I translate in Italian. Everybody knows
Yeah.
that series. That's true, right? It's a minor
Yes,
role.
that is correct.
Which role did you have in this? So people can remind you.
Well, let's see. I think the episode where I earned my Screen Actors Guild card was called Castle of Fear.
Castle of
And
Fear.
Castle of Fear, and I played. The name of the character really was inconsequential. He was a malicious phone caller. He was a prank phone caller, is what he was, and these two young guys in San Francisco were terrifying this old man with their prank phone calls, and we were harmless, but the old man was very frightened of us, and
Mhm.
so the detectives, uh, Carl Malden and Richard Hatch, who now was the lead in the series, tracked us down and caught us in a phone booth on top of Nob Hill in San Francisco that overlooked the bay. There's never been a phone booth in that part of San Francisco, but for that episode, they put a phone booth in this beautiful location in San Francisco, and we were caught and sent home to our parents.
Okay.
So we were pretty harmless.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. But then you became famous with the role of Almanzo Wilder, friends and then husband of Laura Ingalls Wilder, played by great Melissa Gilbert. That
Yes.
I love, like I love you, and there was this television series Little House on the Prairie for 10 years more or less. So at
Yeah.
1979, 1983, something like that. I was very little. I was 8 years old. I'm 51 now, and I still watch Little House on the Prairie with the same emotion, the same feeling. It was exactly.
Well, good for you, Philly. And you're not alone. People
Yeah.
all over the world continue to watch Little
Yes,
House, and
yes, yes.
I think it's been translated into something like 40 languages, and
Wow.
it airs in over 100 countries around the world every single day, and it has just been this incredibly durable piece of American entertainment. But
Exactly.
it touches people wherever they're from, which is really
Exactly.
nice.
Because
Yeah.
there is the story of this traditional American family living in a little village, Walnut Grove in the Minnesota during the 80, 70, 80, 90, so difficult
Hmm.
times.
Hmm.
And it touches many important themes such as adoption, racism, alcoholism, drugs, but also love and romanticism that we really like. But was very important because themes were very strong, at that time, talking about racism, alcoholism, drugs. for families that were watching this kind of TV was yeah, was important. I think it teaches a lot.
Well, I think Michael Landon, who was
Yes,
the guiding force of the program,
yeah,
wanted to create stories that people could talk about as families. And these were the days when maybe families had more than one television in the house, but really families watched, at least in the United States,
yes,
watched television together in the evening. So you could have younger people and parents and even grandparents and so forth sitting in the living room or in the kitchen or wherever watching television. And Michael presented stories that elicited conversation
yes,
after the program, as the program was going on, but really after the program was over. And he opened doors for people to talk about issues that might have been difficult for them to talk about without this invitation that he created to this larger conversation that went from being about those people on the screen, his characters, our characters, and then could be translated or could be applied to them personally. And I know that was a very important part of
very
Michael's
important.
motivation. Yeah,
Absolutely, very
yeah,
important.
yeah.
But let's go back a little bit to your career, just to let people know. Tell me about a little bit your path that led you to become an actor. How did you start to become an actor, and
Well,
why?
well, I think like so many young people everywhere, as a young person, I had a need to be seen and noticed and accepted
Yes.
for as being good at something. I was never going to be a great athlete. I wasn't particularly talented on the athletic field. I wasn't a good soccer player. I wasn't a good basketball player. I could do these things, but I wasn't going to be very good at it. And when when I agreed to participate in a high school play,
Hmm.
I had this wonderful opportunity to stand on a stage under lights and do something fully, passionately, committedly, and there was laughter or applause or whatever was appropriate. I got these really wonderful reactions from that, and it was very affirming. And people came up to me afterwards and said to me, "You did a good job there. You were good." And that was among the first times in my life that anyone had said to me, you are good at something."
Yeah, yeah,
And that's important, I think. And I think that's true. Every kid is looking for that thing, whatever it is, that they excel at and that they are noticed for and appreciated for. Maybe, and maybe a Philly, it may be more important to be noticed, just to be noticed, than even to
exactly,
be appreciated.
exactly. That's very important. That's very important. Yeah,
So, but to be seen is very important. And so that was really the motivator for
for you,
me
for you.
to step into it, was being seen and appreciated.
Wonderful. And how did you manage to get the role of Almanzo Wilder in the television series? So what happened
So
in your
that
life?
it so it started, that Little House happened in 1979.
Yeah.
I had started doing things earlier than that in San Francisco, where I was raised. We talked about Streets of San Francisco.
Yes.
Then I did, after that, really the big thing was a movie the week for CBS called Forever, which was based on the Judy Blume novel Forever,
Hmm.
which I'm sure that novel has been translated into Italian and
Yes. Yes.
is available. I'm just watching a wonderful documentary about Judy Blume. I was watching it before we started today. It's a brand new documentary, and Judy Blume was a very important writer, particularly for young girls,
Mm-hmm.
because Judy talked about issues in much the same way that Michael Landon did with Little House. Judy Blume talked about things like, growing, just young girls growing up and becoming young women, and though that really important time for a young girl when they are transitioning from being a little girl to a young woman. Judy Blume wrote extensively about that, and Forever was about first love, first sex,
Yes.
um,
First kiss.
first ki- I don't know about first kiss. That was a Little House thing,
Very well.
but yeah, but I don't know, the two characters had kissed before. They'd been on, but they had, the two characters in Forever were experiencing their first sexual experience
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
and so that was an important topic for Judy Blume to talk about. And this book was highly banned in the United States. I mean, parents or schools tried to keep this book out of libraries, and
Oh,
parents didn't want their girls reading this book and all that. But it didn't matter. I mean, all you have to do is ban something and it becomes extremely popular. I mean,
yeah.
that's just
Okay.
the way that
Great.
works. So, young girls, and this book came out in 1975,
Mhm.
young girls read this book so passionately because they wanted to learn something they wanted to get Judy Blume's point of view on this experience.
Mhm.
And it was handled very responsibly. And in the film, we handled it very responsibly because the film was based on the book.
On the book.
And I was honored to be invited to play the part of the young man and I did this movie with an actress who Italians know, named Stephanie Zimbalist, who
Yes.
is probably most famous for her work in Remington Steele,
Mm-hmm.
a detective drama
Yeah.
with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
But Stephanie's done so much work. But that was what we did that together. It was one of her first jobs. It was my very first big job,
Okay.
and we had a great time working together. So that led to me coming to Los Angeles, getting an agent in Los Angeles, and then I just started auditioning for different things.
Okay.
And it took a year and a half, close to 2 years before the Little House audition happened. And I went in and read for the Little House casting director on 4 different occasions. And we met and talked, and I read for her, and I went back and read for her again, and read for her again. And the fourth time I went in, I met Michael Landon and
Okay.
read for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very complimentary about the reading. And 2 weeks after that reading, I got a call from my agent, and they offered me the part. So,
Okay. So you were wonder, and you were very happy. I imagine you were very excited
well,
about
yeah, yeah, no, it was a huge,
it. A
huge thing
a
to
huge
to to
because
get this opportunity.
you
Now,
were
I will
really young.
say,
You were
Philly, I had never watched Little House before.
yeah.
I hadn't read the books at that stage in my life. But what I did know is that Little House was a hugely successful television series. It was NBC's number one show.
Absolutely.
Michael was a huge, huge television star.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I knew that and my agent knew that this was a great thing to do. So there was
Absolutely.
no hesitation. Once the offer came, we were going to do this. And
Wonderful. It was a great opportunity for you because you were only 23 years old, right?
right, that's right.
Ah, and so what do you remember about that experience as an actor and as a man? So if you have to say just 3 adjectives, for example, or 3 words
Three
What do
words.
you, actually, I know it's a few, but I don't want to bother you with, But I'm very curious, and also Stefano is very curious to know what kind of experience was for you at that time, 23 years old, a little house on the prairie, so many million people were watching on you. So, as an actor and as a man, what kind of experience has been for you?
Well, let's see. In three, okay, I'm gonna. I don't know that I
Not
can do
three
this. I don't know
sentences.
that I can do this in 3 words, Philly.
No,
But I
no,
can say one
don't
thing
need.
is that it
Yeah.
it it was life changing,
Yes.
totally life changing, and it was. Um, I grew up quickly, or grew up faster than perhaps I would have, had I not had that experience, and it as part of being life changing, I mean, I can say that every, almost every meaningful experience of my life that has occurred since then has had a Little House connection to it. The show just had has had a massive effect on my life in a very, very positive way.
I imagine.
I am so grateful
Great, great.
for the opportunity that I was given to be part of this
Wonderful,
program.
wonderful. And in addition to Almanzo, we have Laura Ingalls, played by the actress Melissa Gilbert, that I know you are always in touch with her. I saw some video on YouTube that you were working on this field, reminding old times, was a sort of you were adult and walking I think 3 years ago, something like that, and you were saying, oh, that was the house, that was the church, that was
Oh! You're talking about a piece of, yes. We when
yeah,
we went back to
the roots.
Simi Valley, and
Yeah,
we walked on the property together where Little House was shot.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
your love story in this series Little House on the Prairie has thrilled and still thrills a lot of people, but how was for you, how did you feel as a guy of 23 years old playing with Laura that was very little, was only
Yeah.
15,
I
14,
know. I know.
15?
I know.
What was your feeling? How did you feel? Also, shooting some scenes, some moment like the keys or whatever, but I will ask you after. So, what was your feeling?
Well, I think the feeling was restraint.
Mm-hmm.
We had to be very careful about how we did this,
Mm-hmm.
because it could have made people very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
had it not been handled properly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think, and Melissa and I have talked about this many times over the years. I think that the fact that we were 8 years apart at that stage in our lives, which 8 years, 23
A
and
lot,
15, is a
a
big
lot.
difference. It's not a
Yeah.
big difference now. It's nothing now.
So,
But then those years were a lot. And I think that I've always felt that Melissa was incredibly brave to deal with this. I mean, this was her job. She knew it was her job, and she knew she had to do this, but she wasn't happy about it. And because I think she was really, as she's written about and spoken about many times, she was really unprepared
yeah.
for what was going to be required of her. She'd never been on a date. She'd never kissed anyone before.
Oh, so it was first
She'd
kiss.
first kiss. I mean, she'd never been in a relationship, and Melissa was a very young 15 years old.
Yeah, very young, very young.
She was really, to when I first met Melissa, I thought, I wondered if she was even 15.
Yeah, because she was yeah, she looked younger. She looked
She's little. I
younger.
mean, Melissa now is, I think, 5'3",
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
So, she maybe was a little, still hadn't gotten her full growth yet.
Yeah.
Maybe she was 5'1" or 5'2". I was 6'1".
Yeah.
So I towered over her. She probably weighed 110 pounds soaking wet. I was full grown man at that point. that was a little. I know it was hard for her. It wasn't easy for either one of us
Of course.
because you had to tread so carefully on this romantic ground. I mean, there's never been casting like that before that in the United States on
Mhm.
American television, where they'd put someone so much older with a young girl, and there's never been casting like that since. No one's ever done that in a mainstream series before, so or since. So we
I
really
know.
were we were really pioneers
Yeah,
in
of
this
course.
area. Now, it was very realistic to what really happened
Yes, of course.
in that time back in the 1800s. This was not an uncommon occurrence, but in our time, even 50 years ago or 45 years ago, that would have been very unusual
Very unusual. And
to have
then
happen.
and then I remember that I read that you were describing this scene of the first kiss, Sweet 16, and Melissa's mother was there and she was crying because she
Yes.
knew that was the first kiss, quindi Stefano, il primo bacio tra Laura Ingalls e Almanzo Wilder nella fiction, nel film, c'era la madre presente che piangeva, so she was
Ah,
crying,
okay.
looking at her daughter. What was your feeling at that time when you saw the mother?
Well, I couldn't, neither one of us could see her, but we did hear her.
Okay.
You know, there was a crowd around the camera on the other side of the camera. There were probably 100 people on the stage
Oh,
at that point watching this happen. Melissa's mother was buried back. I don't know that she could actually, I guess she could see. I mean, she must have found a spot where she could see because Melissa's mother's not very tall either. But
mhm.
I'm sure that she was given a place to stand where she could see, but she couldn't control herself and she cried on I think three or four different takes. And I think I think it was probably much worse for Melissa to have here she is having to do this scene. This is a big moment in the life of the series, and she's supposed to be a big girl now, and here is her mother off camera crying.
Yeah.
I think she just wanted to bury her head and get off the stage as quickly as she
Yeah.
could. She just wanted to get this done. Again, I think Melissa is one of the gutsiest, bravest young people. I think a lot of young actresses might have folded under
You
that
can tell, you can
situation.
tell. Watching on the series, you can tell that she's really strong. So, which episode did you like the most, and which episode, according to you, was the funniest one? So
Well,
yeah,
Sweet 16 was a very important episode in the life of the series
mhm,
for all the obvious reasons.
yes,
It was among the most watched episodes ever in the history of the series because the audience was so interested in what was going to happen to Laura. The audience loved Laura, and whoever Laura fell in love with was going to be someone that the audience was going to be watching closely. So, that was just it was a huge honor to be invited to be a part of that,
yes,
because it was going to be an important moment. It was an important moment in the life of the series. So that, and then I think
the funniest one.
there are other episodes that we did. There was a fun episode called The Nephews where my brother brings his two boys to
Ah,
spend
yes, I
time with
remember.
us.
I
Uh,
remember.
there was the episode called Divorce Walnut Grove Style where
Yeah, yes, I remember. Yes, so
where
there were
the
several.
song and
Yeah, yeah,
Brenda Sue Longworth and
yeah. There were
and then
several.
Pa with the picture window that keeps breaking. I mean, it's a fun episode.
The fun episode.
I mean
And
the first one is also fun because it was the first one. In season 6, arriving on the scene, the mud fight between Nellie and Laura at the end of that, getting punched out by Pa at the end of the episode.
Yes.
All these things were really, the cinnamon chicken scene, obviously,
Oh,
all
yeah.
these things are really fun. Really fun.
So apart Laura, which is the favorite character in Little House on the Prairie? For example, Charles or Nellie or Mrs. Oleson? we no. So a person that you like really a lot, playing with, and working with in particular, apart from Laura Ingalls Wilder, so Melissa Gilbert.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, it was always
Charles.
It was always wonderful to have an opportunity to do scenes with Michael Landon.
Yeah.
I mean, most of those scenes were. So many of those scenes were about him being, disapproving of me as the guy who was too old for his daughter.
Yes.
So, there were a few fun scenes, but most of those scenes were pretty serious, because it was like Almanzo's trying to establish himself and Pa's nervous or Pa's unhappy that he's so much older than his daughter and, all of that. The person I really loved working with, and I didn't do tons of scenes with her, but I loved working with Catherine McGregor, who played Mrs. Olsen.
Mrs. Olsen.
Everyone on the show loved working with Catherine.
She was a theater woman. I read that she was accustomed to do theater. So when she played her role, she was really like a theater actress. The way she moved the hands and the face was really an actress accustomed to playing in a theater more than on TV. What do you think?
Well, I think she was very, very skilled. Yeah, Catherine really understood what she was doing.
Yes.
She was a wonderful comedian, and she really discovered the comedy in the character. It didn't start off as a funny character. In the beginning, if you watch those early episodes, Mrs. Olsen was just sort of mean.
Yeah,
and she figured out.
She changed it. Nellie. Nellie was the same. She was very strange at the beginning.
Yes, right. Nice. Yeah, so I think Catherine, even more than Allison, figured out that the character, she was going to have more fun if she was funny.
Yeah.
And if she liked to say she needed to be foolish, not mean. She had to be someone who was always trying to be something but making mistakes.
Yeah.
The audience loved seeing bad things happen to Mrs. Olsen.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
You love to see her get what was coming to her. And she did it in this really wonderful way where you got a kick. It was fun. It was fun to see Mrs. Olsen get it. You didn't want anything really bad to happen to her. You just wanted her to pay the price for being so mean.
Exactly.
And so she really crafted a wonderful balance of villain and comedic relief into this character that was really just a wonder. Her contribution to the show can't be overstated. She was very, very important.
She was very, very important. And I read that she died, unfortunately.
She did. She passed about 4 years ago.
4 years ago. But in 2024, there will be the 50th birthday of Little House on the Prairie. Do you have any plans with all the cast to do something? We hope so. There will be a reunion, something.
Well, I think there are going to be a number of big events during that year. But in Southern California, there's going to be a big event in March of 2024, back in Simi Valley, where the town was built. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a big 50th anniversary event in Simi Valley, and we think people will come from all over the world to experience
Stefano,
this.
we have to go, Stefano, dobbiamo andare
There you go. Yes, you need to come.
Reunion del cast ai loro 50 anni nel 2024. So we are
Andiamo, digli che io ho una paura terrificante dall'aereo. però mi organizzo per andare.
That he's scared flying.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
It's
And
a
flying's no fun these days, so it's
No,
hard.
it's a long flight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can be there through the metaverse. All these,
Yeah.
attraverso il metaverso. You spoke. You told me something about the village. The last episode, the blew up of the village that Michael Landon decided to do. The explosion of the village because he didn't want to leave anything to somebody else because unfortunately the series was cancelled after so many years. But this was very strong because everybody was crying, but were real tears. The actor were really. Is it, Dean?
Yeah, I think it was very hard to go back.
Yeah.
Now, none of us were there when the explosions actually took place. It was all,
okay.
The explosions happened a different day. Mm-hmm. We all did the shots where we pushed the plungers down, and we're imagining what happens as we watch. But the explosions actually happened on a different day. And when we went back, they had put smoke pots in all of the buildings, so there was smoke and rising from all the buildings where they had just exploded. Mm-hmm. And it was very, it was very emotional to watch. And I think for people who had been there for 10 years,
yes, it's strong.
It was incredibly emotional. Michael didn't speak to anybody that day. He didn't have to speak to anybody that day. Everyone had to deal in their own way with what it was. I think, I don't remember personally shedding tears. I remember feeling sort of stoical, of just sort of holding it everything within myself. Melissa was very free with her emotions. So
after 9 years,
she was able to, she had a lot of emotional response. That was very hard. That was a very hard day for her. No question. It was a hard day for everybody, but I think it was a really hard day for her.
You continue to do a lot of things related to the House on the Prairie because I see some meetings with people or something like that. No, are you continue to?
Yeah, no, I've done
to keep alive this House on the Prairie.
I produced several documentaries. I produced bonus content for the DVDs. We all do appearances still for the show. Allison Arngren and I, she had invited me to join her and read from the books on her Facebook page, her Facebook Live page.
I follow.
I've done that. Little House amazingly remains a very significant part of all of our lives.
Absolutely. I'm so happy for that. Stefano, vuoi fare qualche domanda? Any questions for Dean? Qualche domanda?
Volevo cambiare un attimo argomento e chiedergli come secondo lui ha vista la disabilità in quelli di Los Angeles.
This is a very important question. He's asking you, how is disability seen and lived in Los Angeles, in that part of the United States, in California? How disabled people like Stefano are seen, or different other disabled people? So disability, how is...
I think Los Angeles is there always has to be access. There has to be access to every building. There's special access in buses. There's, I think that, Los Angeles is it's a huge city. It's 7-8 million people in the Los Angeles basin, which is not a huge city by really huge standards, but it's a big American city.
È una grande città, sì.
I think that people, the city of Los Angeles is has been very responsive to the needs of people with disabilities.
È molto responsabile nei confronti delle persone che hanno disabilità, quindi sono molto attenti a questo.
Bello, interessante. Sicuramente più dell'Italia, dico io.
Yes,
non ci sono mai stato là, però. Però penso più dell'Italia.
He's saying that he never went to Los Angeles, but for sure disability in Italy is not seen as in Los Angeles, because unfortunately here we have a lot of barriers,
Yeah.
and this is not good, because sometimes people that have a disability cannot do everything like in the United States, for example.
Right.
Even access to the bus, for
I
example.
mean, look, I don't think our disabled access is perfect everywhere in the country. I mean,
Yeah.
it certainly isn't. There are places you can go where there are no ramps or no elevators in buildings. It's not everywhere, but I would think that anybody with a disability coming to Los Angeles would find that there is a high degree of responsibility,
C'è
civic
un alto
responsibility
grado, c'è un alto grado di responsabilità. Dean is saying a high degree of responsibility,
to
Stefano,
make sure that people with disabilities are able to function in as normal a way as it's possible
per
to
essere
function.
sicuri di dare tutte le cose di cui hanno bisogno le
Le
persone.
possibilità, sì.
Esatto, quindi c'è un grande senso di responsabilità. Responsibility, this is a very important word that it's very rare, unfortunately, in Italy, I have to say.
Well,
Because
when you look at Italy, I mean, I think of now. I've spent very little time in Italy, but
yeah. Mm.
Italy, I think of Italy as being Italy has such a proud history and so many older buildings that were designed the way they were designed, and to retrofit these buildings
Yeah,
is a very challenging thing to do.
questo è vero, le costruzioni in Italia, Stefano, sono diverse da quelle americane, sono più
Sì, sì.
storiche, sono più antiche, e quindi anche questo, yes, the history needed. So have you ever been to Italy, I guess?
I have, yeah, very briefly. I mean, I think
What did you visit?
well, like all Americans, you've got to go to Florence and see that,
Right?
and this
Yes.
was years ago, and I went to Venice to
Yeah.
see that. The city wasn't completely sinking yet.
Yeah.
There was no water in the main plaza when I was there, and of course we rode. I rode on the train from Germany in through Switzerland, a little bit through Switzerland or around Switzerland, and then into Italy.
Yeah.
And it was I'll never forget the difference in the mentality of the people from going from Switzerland to Italy. It
Of
it
course.
was it was a it was a huge change. You had everyone was very buttoned up in Switzerland, and
Yeah.
you ride through the countryside, and all the wood stacked perfectly in the
And then you arrive
in
in
the little
Italy.
barns, and the fences are perfect, and everything looks perfect. And then you come into Italy, and it feels very human all of a
Yes.
sudden, and the energy level goes up, and it's people are a little more emotional and a little more laughter, and
Yeah.
and it was just it was more fun.
Yes.
Switzerland was beautiful. Italy is obviously beautiful. Switzerland was beautiful like a postcard.
Yes.
It
Una
was just, you
cartolina
look at it, it's just
l'atmosfera.
perfect.
Perfetta, invece
Yeah.
l'Italia è più dinamica, è più
Yeah.
imperfetta. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
And then I would like to ask you the last question, and then we'll leave you to your day. And then if Stefano has another question, of course. If you are, because I love music, and if you are shooting a scene as an actor or a director, what kind of music would you like to listen?
Well, I think most of the time when you are shooting, you're not having music on
Yes.
while
Yeah.
you're shooting.
Yeah.
Um,
But if they have to put a music,
yeah,
on the
well,
screen,
that really depends on what you're shooting. I mean,
exactly.
the music that you would pick is very much connected
Let's
to
say
the
let's say a romantic scene. Let's say a romantic scene, because we love romance. Siamo
yeah,
romantici.
yeah. No, see, and I think again that also depends on that would depend on what kind of a romantic scene. It
Okay.
was. When it was what the two characters were about, what they were like in this romantic scene. Let's just say that in regards to, since we're talking about Little House, the
Yeah.
music that David Rose wrote for Little House, the
Yeah.
romantic melodies that he wrote were just perfect for our show.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
His music was the unseen character in every scene.
Yeah.
I think I've often believed that it's much more David Rose that makes the audience cry than the
Yeah,
actors
that's
who
true.
make
The
the
music was
audience. Yeah, the
amazing.
music was just
Amazing.
sensational.
Yeah.
It was beautiful and moving and unabashedly romantic.
Yeah.
It just was. In talking, if we have time for this, but in talking to
Of
David
course.
about the music for the show, initially there had been a concept or there had been a suggestion that the music should be done with a fiddle and a stand-up bass and maybe a guitar or a mandolin, something like much more instruments
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah.
And David Rose's perspective was no, this needs to be every episode of Little House on the Prairie emotionally needs to be scored like Gone with the Wind. It
Gone with the Wind. Via col
it
vento.
it needs to be lush,
Yes.
evocative,
Yeah.
because he wanted the emotional life of the characters to
Exactly.
be huge and be consequential.
Mhm.
This was not the characters on Little House experience things beautifully, but in large emotional strokes, in broad emotional strokes that were lush and full and
Yes.
would evoke. I mean, when David wrote a cue to tell you what the character was feeling, you felt it. You felt the beauty or the tragedy, or you
That's
just
true.
felt it.
Yeah. The
He
music is really very important, I think.
it's music is hugely important in every project.
Yes.
The music of Little House definitely served its purpose. It was a very powerful body of music that he scored through those 10 years. And of course, he'd worked with Michael for years on Bonanza preceding that.
Yes.
And there are lots of cues that made their way into Little House that started off as cues in Bonanza.
Yeah.
the
Wonderful.
the title theme of Little House started off as music for a cattle drive in Bonanza.
Okay. I didn't know
It
that.
just sort of interesting. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched enough of Bonanza to have ever heard that cue, but that Little House theme that we hear that's so a part of it started as a cattle drive theme in Bonanza.
Wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
So your projects now, what are you doing now in this period of your life? You are
Yeah,
relaxing, you are working, you are enjoying your beautiful wife. You have a very beautiful wife that everybody
yes,
knows. Lui ha
yeah.
una moglie bellissima, un'attrice anche molto famosa. So you are lucky.
No, listen, Philly. I've had a very very fortunate life.
Yes.
I'm working on developing some other projects now. There's one that I'm working on about the history of women's basketball, which is sort
Oh,
of an interesting a documentary
interesting.
project.
Le donne del
Uh,
basket.
yeah,
Sta. Mhm.
and we'll be working on. I'm working on something with members of our Little House cast
Mhm.
for the 50th anniversary year. It will not be a filmed thing, but it will be more of a podcast idea. We're
Okay.
working on something that will be hearable all over the world once we do it.
Okay, that's very important. And
Yeah,
we can see something on TV in an American channel or
I don't
here in
think so.
Europe.
Not new. I don't think I'd be very surprised if anything like that happened.
Oh, too
I
bad.
just don't think you can do it without Michael Landon. I just don't
Yeah,
think, you
yeah,
can't revisit that world without him.
of course.
It's
Yeah,
hard,
that's right.
and I don't, you could never recapture the magic of what was going on during those years. I mean, Little House was its own unique little world. We are so grateful for it. We love it. We're proud of it. And it's probably best left alone to be what it was.
What it was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Stefano, last question for our Dean, for you. L'ultima
No,
domanda. No?
per quanto mi riguarda possiamo chiudere se vuoi.
Benissimo. So thank you very much, Dean. You are adorable. You are very sweet. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy your day. And we hope to see you soon. I don't know, maybe again in Steradiodj. If you have any project that you want to share with us, share with Italy, let us know. And with Stefano, we can, advertise. If you have any project here in Italy, we are here. Huh? So if
That's
you need
very
us,
kind of you. That's very kind. Well, I think we need to let you know about our podcast when it happens, and
yes,
and I will have a book coming out in 2024. So we'll need to. So I don't know if they'll translate it to Italian, but if they do, we'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so thank you very much from Rome, from Brescia to Los Angeles. A kiss to you, Almanzo, Mr. Melli.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, all of you.
You too. Grazie Stefano. Ciao Dean. Ciao Italia. Ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.